You've heard that VR training can revolutionize manufacturing, but actually implementing it, that's where most companies struggle. Now, after working with over 3,000 organizations, including 60 plus Fortune 500 companies, we've seen what works and what doesn't work when it comes to launching VR training programs in manufacturing. Companies like Mars Wrigley achieved a $19 million business impact in just 7 months, while Pfizer reduced training time by 40% using virtual reality, and they didn't just get there by accident. In this video, I'll walk you through the complete implementation playbook for VR training in manufacturing, from identifying the right use cases to managing compliance requirements and scaling across multiple facilities. The first step isn't buying headsets, it's determining where VR will deliver the biggest impact. For example, when Mars Wrigley needed to onboard 200 machine operators in just 6 to 7 months, they didn't try to VR enable everything all at once. Instead, they focused on what they called their loss leader, in their case, the MSS wrapping machine. That was their biggest source of employee turnover because operators struggled with troubleshooting and cleaning procedures. Here's how to identify your own VR opportunities. Look for high-risk, high-cost training scenarios. This can be expensive equipment that can't be taken offline for training, dangerous procedures that require extensive safety protocols, and complex processes with long learning curves. Then, calculate bottlenecks. Our client Pfizer shared that it typically takes 18 months to get a new manufacturing employee fully proficient. They identified that workers needed 4 to 6 repetitions to get familiar with any process, but it's difficult to recreate real scenarios for practice. That's your sweet spot for VR. Processes where getting enough practice repetitions is the limiting factor. Also, make sure you consider your compliance requirements. Delta Airlines faced a unique challenge with de-icing training. They needed to conduct proficiency checks, but de-icing fluid costs up to $500 per square foot. VR allowed them to increase proficiency checks from 3 to 150 per day while eliminating material costs entirely. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about how we've helped thousands of companies launch and scale VR training programs that deliver ROI, then click the first link in the description below. So you need concrete numbers to get leadership buy-in. And here's how successful companies structure their ROI calculations. Start with quantifying the pain point. For example, when your machine is down for 7 hours at $1,000 per hour burden rate, you've lost $7,000 in productivity. If VR can reduce that downtime by 90%, the ROI is basically immediate. Also factor in that training efficiency usually improves with VR, as you can see from our clients. Mars Wrigley achieved a 50% reduction in training time, from 12 weeks to 6 weeks. Pfizer experienced a 40% reduction in total training hours, and Envista reduced the time to proficiency by 50 to 70%. And don't forget about factoring in hidden costs that VR eliminates. This includes production line downtime, trainer productivity, material waste, or the cost of safety incidents. And step 3 is content development. This is where a lot of companies get stuck. You have 2 main paths, and the choice depends on your specific needs. Mars Wrigley had to go the custom route because their machines were over 50 years old with no existing digital blueprint. They partnered with futurists to conduct detailed 3D scans of each piece of equipment, and that's over 60 to 70 components just in the wrapping machine alone. Pfizer took a similar approach, building an internal team with Unity developers to maintain full control over their content and make really fast updates as procedures changed. The second option is the marketplace route or off-the-shelf route. For general training like fire extinguisher training and basic safety protocols, Envista purchased existing content from content developers. This can be a really great option for less complex use cases. Then, of course, there's also the hybrid approach. This is what most companies lean towards. Like in WestRock's case, they partner where it makes sense for tools and platforms, but they own the content creation for their specific processes. And step 4 is device management and deployment. This is an absolutely crucial step. Poor device management kills VR programs faster than anything else. First, start with centralized management. Zimmer Biomet manages headsets globally from their headquarters in Warsaw, Indiana. Sales teams request headsets for demonstrations, and they overnight devices as needed. But they use ArborXR to track everything: which headsets are where, what software they're running, and when they were last used. You should also plan for multi-site deployment. Device management becomes exponentially more complex at scale. You need to account for different regulatory requirements by country, multiple languages for content, varying network infrastructure and quality, plus local support and troubleshooting capabilities. For this, it's crucial to have the ability to manage devices at scale. You need a platform that allows granular control over which content goes to which headset and which locations, so on and so forth. And the next step is compliance and safety considerations. VR training and manufacturing must meet the same compliance standards as traditional training, and sometimes even more. The first step is tracking. With our new Insights feature, you can actually actually measure how learners are performing in VR. With ArborXR Insights, you're empowered to see how much time folks spend in training, track task completion, and spot where they're getting stuck so you can improve outcomes faster. In addition, you also need to track certification timestamps for audit purposes. And with support for 500 plus platforms, ArborXR Insights sends learner data where it needs to go. Your LMS, HRIS, BI tool, or your own ArborXR dashboard, so you can prove your ROI and show real impact with clean, shareable reports. VR training shouldn't sit in a silo. It should be a fully integrated part of your entire learning ecosystem. Then there's regulatory approval. Some industries require specific approvals for training methods. Zimmer Biomet, for example, worked to get FDA clearance for their mixed reality navigation system, which took a ton of documentation and validation. You also need to have proper safety protocols. Kevin Markham at Delta shared a really great example where a 40-year veteran stepped over an air hose in VR and an alert popped up saying there's a safety hazard. The veteran said, quote, "I've been told 1,000 times not to do that, but now I finally remember." Your VR training must enforce, not replace, your existing safety protocols. And step 6 is user adoption. New technology is only half the battle. Getting your workforce to embrace VR fully requires the right strategy. As an example, many veteran manufacturing workers can view VR headsets as a gaming tool or entertainment device, creating resistance to putting their decades of knowledge into what they perceive as, quote, toys. The key is building comfort gradually. You can start with tablet-based remote tools for introducing your headsets, for example. You also need to demonstrate clear value first. Begin your VR implementation with very simple, obvious, beneficial applications rather than complex training modules from the start. Once teams see concrete benefits from these use cases, they become more receptive to other, more advanced VR training applications. So these are the exact steps you can take to implement VR training into your manufacturing organization. Now at ArborXR, we've helped thousands of organizations navigate this exact process by providing device management, but also expertise to turn your virtual reality programs into measurable business results. So if you're ready to move beyond the hype and start implementing VR that actually delivers ROI, then click the first link in the description below to get started with ArborXR. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.